Sandwiches. Catt Zago was having a very bad time. She remembered getting very drunk at the festival and arguing angrily with various people about whether or not it was okay to behead beautiful kings. An infuriating number of them had supported the position that it was fine. It must have come to fist-fighting at some point, but she couldn't quite remember that part clearly. After waking up in the small cell and waiting for the hangover to wear off, she was moderately proud to note that the bruises on her knuckles felt much worse than the ones on her face, so she had probably fought relatively well. Catt had, on a few occasions in her life, gained a little knowledge of prisons, so she knew enough to have recognized immediately that this was an unusual one, and she had been left with several full days to worry about that. It was dark like a dungeon, and though she could see a few other cells, she had seen no other prisoners, and she had only distantly heard sounds that might have been other prisoners. However, unlike a dungeon, the cell was quite clean, and contained a perfectly comfortable cot with an actual pillow and blanket, both completely free of vermin. 3 times a day, a guard would arrive, carrying a narrow tray with a fresh cold sandwich and a clay cup of water. This would be wordlessly placed outside the bars, and if she had pushed the old tray and cup out between the bars, the guard would carry it away. They didn't seem to particularly care if she kept the tray and cup either. Once Catt had realized this, she had accumulated a fine collection of 8 clay cups. Once per day, a guard would arrive with a very narrow chamber pot and slide it between the bars in exchange for the old one, which they would then carry away. The chamber pots had tight-fitting lids to contain the smell, but Catt had refrained from discovering whether or not they would allow her to hoard them. This dungeon was actually more luxurious than many boarding houses that Catt had occasion to visit, but it was still clearly a dungeon. There were strong metal bars blocking the exit, and she was not able to leave. This was all very concerning. It was a highly unusual way to treat a prisoner, particularly one who had apparently only been picked up for drunk and disorderly fighting. What really had Catt frightened was the guards themselves. Every single one of them was an executioner. They all wore the same black-caped uniform and wooden face mask as the 2 Kingslayers had worn. They all had the same blue badge with an axe over a crown that she had seen before. Its meaning was painfully obvious to her now in hindsight. And of course, they each wore a sharp-looking axe on their belt. None of the executioner guards ever spoke a single word to her. They just delivered sandwiches or chamber pots, and then departed again. As far as she could tell, it had been a different executioner every time. The wooden mask was always the same, but the hair and neck and arms and general body shape of the executioners was widely varied. Some were women, some were men. A few had tails. What sort of a city could she be in that would have so many Kingslayers that some of them would spend their time delivering tasty sandwiches to drunkards in dungeons? After much pondering, Catt had come to the conclusion that she would be killed soon. It was the only explanation that made any sense. If every crime carried the death sentence, then perhaps the city could afford to keep prisoners in such lavish conditions inside such a clean prison. After all, if every prisoner was to be promptly beheaded, there would be no overcrowding, and no repeat offenders. It was just her luck to have stumbled unaware into a city under the draconian heel of some kind of murderous death cult. By now, Catt reckoned it had been a bit more than 4 days, and she was certain that each sandwich would be her last meal. What kind of monsters gave their captives sliced tomatoes and aged cheese anyways? She spent her idle time alternating between doing push-ups on the floor and sprawling on the cot, trying to imagine ways to fight back when the inevitable time came. She determined that she could start by pelting them with the clay cups, and that perhaps she could somehow wield either the chamber pot or the bed as a weapon. Ultimately, though, all her escape fantasies came down to wresting the axe away from one of them and fighting her way out. It was a doomed plan, of course. There were far too many of the masked bastards for that approach to have a prayer of working. At best, she might manage to take a few of them with her before they cut her down. And as far as escape fantasies go, that one was unsatisfying.